Ladies and gentlemen, there is a man out of Florida who seeks to make certain that we are no longer beggars of nations, but actually givers to nations of our oil. We have in just West Texas enough oil to provide for over 200 years of America's well being. You do not need a Tesla, you can make it without it. Scotty Moore is running for the ninth Congressional District out of Florida. You can find him at ScottyMooreForCongress.com. Scotty Moore for Congress, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, I want to introduce you to a man who says, I will always stand up for our freedoms, for our Constitution, and for our great nation. Scotty Moore, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love being on here, and I love standing for truth and what's most important, which is God Almighty. So thank you for standing up for truth.
Scotty Moore, it's a tremendous honor. A number of people are running in the ninth Congressional District. So let's try to take care of some housekeeping there. A lot of people are running in the ninth Congressional District of Florida. What makes you different from everyone else?
Well, I mean, I think all of us have an opportunity to share what I like to say, who I am, what I believe, why I'm running, and why it matters. What I think stands apart is that I'm 43 years old. I've been married for 19 years. I have two amazing daughters. So here's a picture of my wife.
Aww.
And so
her.
You'll see here, you'll see she's Brazilian. I lived 6 years in Brazil. And you'll see a picture of my amazing kids right here.
Aww.
Isabella's 14 and Sophia's 11. They're the reason why I'm running. But I've lived and worked with a Christian nonprofit, Campus Crusade for Christ, for over 20 years, raising my own funds, our own funds, teaching, training, and equipping, helping people, point them to Jesus Christ, and then also teaching leadership development and working within individuals and within communities. And then I even traveled around South America. So I speak Portuguese fluently, I speak Spanish, and I moved here to Florida in 2007. Shtay and I, my wife and I did. And we have raised our family here. Our girls were born here. And I began having a deep burden for what's happening in our nation. We simultaneously have started to turn away from God. And not only that, but just continue to run away from the Lord. And not only that, but our country is suffering significant.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my girls and I'm wondering, what kind of an America are they going to inherit? And by the way, what about my unborn grandkids that soon will come in Jesus' name? And so what kind of America are they going to inherit? The Bible talks a little about leaving a legacy. What kind of legacy are we leaving for our kids and future grandkids and even great grandkids? And who is going to stand in the gap and fight for truth and what is right? And I believe it was a calling from the Lord. And I talked to my wife about this calling. I said, Shtay, I believe the Lord's calling us to run for U.S. Congress. And you know what she said to me?
What did she say?
I think her exact words were, no, he's not. No.
She's a good wife.
No. Yeah, she said no, he's not. No. And so what I said is, listen, let's pray about it and let's let the Lord lead us here. And so it took about 6 months, to be quite honest, 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I knew that I was not going to move ahead until we were unified and connected. But we were at a marriage retreat in June last year, and the Lord clearly spoke to her and said, Shtay, you need to release Scotty. Even though this is something that you would never choose to do on your own, doesn't mean that I'm not calling him and I haven't prepared him for this moment. And so we started running in September, and we've been running full steam ahead. I've raised the most amount of money. I'm endorsed by President Donald Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, the Florida Republican Assembly, Liberty Counsel, if you're familiar with Liberty Counsel, with Matt Staver, who's been fighting on behalf of believers on every level within and against Roe versus Wade and stuff. So he's endorsed me. So we are totally right in line, pushing forward, but we're not taking anything for granted. 36 more days left until the primary, counting today, August 23rd. And so we keep pushing, my friend.
36 days. And, you know, the first day seems to be so, filled with promise. And when you get down to the very last day, it is filled with anxiety and tension. What is it that your campaign needs right now from the American people to get you over the top, get you over the edge so that you can take on the Democrat challenger in November?
Correct. And thank you for pointing that out. So I don't mention any of my opponents because I'm not running against them. I'm running against the incumbent Democrat, Darren Soto, who votes, by the way, 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. Mm-hmm. He's absolutely complicit with where we're at in this nation, and we must fight against it. So here are a few things that I need in no particular order. I need prayers. This is a spiritual attack, my friends. Our country is under attack. The indoctrination of our kids, the attack of parents' rights, calling us domestic terrorists, the attack on the economy, the attack on fossil fuels, the attack on our energy independence, the attack on the aborters, we were talking about that, the attack of our weakness in leadership and what's happening. And the enemy does not want to give up any ground. The Democrat Party has become so radicalized, they are absolutely okay with trying to abort babies up until birth, and in some cases after birth.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just flat out murder. We got to call it for what it is. There is evil approaching us, and we must fight back. And so I need prayers because the enemy does not want to give up ground. We also need donations. If you go to ScottyMooreForCongress.com, that's Scotty with a Y, Moore. You can see the signs in the back here. For Congress.com, you can give a donation, like $5 all the way to the max is $5,800. Donations are fuel for the campaign. That's how we get the message out. You can have an amazing vehicle in the garage, I tell people, but if you don't have any fuel in that gas tank, it does not leave. And so we need donations to get the campaign message out. And so those are a few ways. We need volunteers. If you're local, even if you can't vote for me, you still can help because not all candidates are alike. So you got to help me get my message out on social media. Like, share, spread the word. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check me out. Be a part of the team. Let's help flip this seat from blue to red. Yeah. Let's take back the House so that we can fire Nancy Pelosi and so that we can help save America.
Listen, we opened our show tonight, or this particular segment, talking about energy independence. Florida is an example of a state with a great number of resources, but the Democrats have held back Florida from exposing or exploring those particular resources for energy independence. You have a president of the United States who takes his hat in hand and goes begging for oil from Russia, because that's virtually what he was asking for. A lot of people want to think it was Saudi Arabia, but OPEC Plus is Russia. Yep. He wants the Russian oil back. First and foremost, do you believe it is treasonous to use our oil, our emergency oil reserves, and sell them to China? And then number two, what is it that we must do to make America energy independent again?
Yes, it's absolutely treasonous. Selling it to, and by the way, there's that whole Hunter Biden connection that people aren't talking about. You mentioned earlier about how, the media has remained silent on a large part of a lot of things. There is a strong hypocrisy throughout the Democrat Party where they will say certain messages, but then they don't call out other people. And we see that in Governor Newsom, all the different governors, Mayor Lightfoot. And so what's happening is Donald Trump was the one who filled up our reserves. He was very wise, strategic. And now what's happening is this is a self-made problem by Joe Biden on day one, shutting down the Keystone Pipeline, not allowing us to drill, not allowing us to go after what we have within our own country, and then going over to Saudi Arabia and Venezuela, all these terrorist countries that support terrorism and that are very anti-American, and paying for them and then giving away to China our oil reserves in part and others. Absolutely treasonous. And so what do we need to do? We need to open up the Keystone Pipeline. We need to allow us to drill and do. We know that it can happen. It's already been proven. Mm-hmm. We just have to do it. What we lack is backbone and will to do it. And by the way, you mentioned this earlier about Tesla. You saw that Tesla in Texas is actually asking people not to charge their vehicles. In California, they have these brownouts. And so what if we had a whole nation full of vehicles that we couldn't drive because of these problems? I mean, this is fossil fuels are so important to our economic security, to our national security, and even our constitutional freedoms. This is very, very important.
When you get to Congress, because I have a lot of individuals who come on the air and they all say what you say, yet energy independence is important, that we need to take steps to be energy independent. But there's nothing alone that you can do. What can you do collectively? And you have the representation of the former leader of the Freedom Caucus in your arsenal. What can you do collectively to put the fear of God in Joe Biden when it comes to the arsenal of energy independence?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned Mark Meadows and the Conservative Partnership Institute, the Freedom Caucus, because being one person out of 435, that's like throwing a pebble at a dam and trying to break it. But when you get a coalition of people, and that coalition, by the way, is growing, there are a lot of people who are like me, who I believe the Lord is raising up to speak up with truth and honor and trying to save America. That's when we start having an impact. And then you factor in the fact that we're going to take back the House. We're going to fire Nancy Pelosi. We're going to elect America First leadership, Lord willing, and put America first. Listen, we can be generous and philanthropic, but you can't do that at the expense of not caring for your own people. A good leader takes care of your people. And then, you can't run a successful business by giving away all your money, because guess what? You're not going to have a business anymore. And so we have to take care of our people first. We have to make sure that we have controlled immigration, that we know who's coming in. By the way, my wife's Brazilian. We've been married for 19 years. 16 years ago, she became a U.S. citizen legally, by the way, and I helped navigate that. And so I've been through the process. I know what it's like. It's very patriotic. It's very amazing. I don't know if you've ever been, but we need more of that. Immigrants have made up a strong America. People who want to be a part of this, people from all over the world want to come here. But the crazy thing is we have a party who's trying to destroy us from the inside. And one of the things that I mentioned, the Star Spangled Banner has a phrase at the very end. It says, "We're the land of the free and the home of the brave." But what's shocking is that the land of the free, our freedoms, are under attack, and it's from within our own nation, from our own people. And it's going to take the home of the brave to rise up and stop and push back, or we will risk becoming another Venezuela.
You mentioned Brazil and your lovely wife, and God bless each of you and your family. You mentioned Brazil south of Venezuela, and I want to close this particular discussion on energy independence. What happened with Venezuela, if you could tell the American people, when it comes to energy independence? They have all the oil in the world, and they're about as poor as a jaybird who's last at the Feast of Worms. Can you please tell everybody about that?
Absolutely. The Bible's very clear about this, and we can look at history. And so I believe that we're experiencing a leadership crisis in our nation and around the world. In Venezuela, 20 years ago, my friends, if you go look it up, they were rich and thriving. They have everything that they can. They're in a Caribbean nation right on the ocean, ports, they have oil, they have everything to be rich and thriving. And it's a leadership example of how leadership destroyed that company. First you had Chavez, and then you have Maduro, and what happened to the people. And guess who is suffering? It's the people. Not the government. They're living large and they're doing fine. It's the people who have been utterly destroyed, and they'll take away your guns, and they'll take away your freedoms, and they'll give you like promises that it's going to be great. They'll cheat in elections, and then look at where they're at 20 years later, utterly destroyed. And what I tell people is if you don't believe me with that, consider what would happen if Governor DeSantis had lost the election here in Florida 4 years ago. Like, if you really allow yourself to go there, and we had the other guy, I won't even mention his name, but if you had him there, where would we be? We would be vaccine mandates. Our economy would be destroyed. We look a lot like California and New York, but instead, Governor DeSantis did win. Leadership has made total difference. And we're not only an example just within the United States, all around the world, Canada, Australia, Europe, people are looking to Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis and his leadership. Leadership matters. And Venezuela is experiencing a leadership crisis. Now, if you want to talk about Brazil, you got Jair Bolsonaro, who they call the tropical Trump. He's very much connected, and he came in similar to President Trump to help a really poor performing economy in Brazil, and you have the exact same thing happening that happened to President Trump happening to President Bolsonaro. And so I pray that he continues to hold the line. But there are elections happening later on this year in October 2022 here and you have a former president of Brazil, Lula, who was locked up in a jail, got out on a technicality, and he is the one who started the decline of Brazil. And it's going to be a neck and neck race right here. And the media is already pushing for their guy. And
Exactly.
similar things that happen. Yeah, and that's what's at risk. It's a global thing that's happening right now, and we need American exceptionalism and leadership to hold the line.
Bolsonaro is famous for the fact that he was adamantly opposed to the UN and the WHO in terms of dealing with COVID. And they were attempting to force the Caribbean and South American and other nations to go underfoot with the WHO and Dr. Fauci. And he fought that tooth and nail. But he came under the duress of the media that began pushing the leftist agenda. And like here in the United States, people began to, despite the evidence, they began to go for the fear. I want to talk with you right now about COVID and its impact on the GOP and elections here in the U.S. and what you would do differently than the U.S. House of Representatives did up until this particular point.
Yeah, well, let me first address that part that you're talking about with Bolsonaro, because you're absolutely right. And I can speak very strongly into this because I follow Brazil politics. I mean, I've lived there for 6 years. I have family still there. My wife and daughters are there right now, celebrating my mother-in-law's 70th birthday that I couldn't go because I am laser focused on winning this primary and getting into the general and winning the general against Democrat Darren Soto. But President Bolsonaro was reviving an economy that was destroyed in shambles by poor leadership in what was happening. And essentially what happened, in my opinion, was a coup d'etat, because they worked a process where the Supreme Court came in and tried to overrule, and in fact, in some cases, did overrule him. And they allowed that to happen. That is a coup d'etat. That is not allowing a president to lead, and they're trying to do essentially a roundabout way through the judicial branch, which is similar things that what they're happening. Now bringing it back here, there's an administrative state that is being pushed. Fauci, unelected. CDC, NIH, unelected. You even have the FBI spying on Americans, not being held accountable. You got calling domestic terrorists, parents domestic terrorists, and what they're doing. These are all unelected bureaucrats who are pushing forward, constricting our constitutional freedoms, by the way, and they're not being held accountable on that. It is very dangerous. And by the way, their rhetoric is just out of control because the vaccine was proven to not be as effective as they said it, yet they continued to push people and even threatened, and in some cases cost people their jobs. Families were destroyed. This is very, very, very dangerous. This is a government out of control. And part of the job of Congress, which I'm looking forward to, is oversight. We have to have checks and balances and keep our government in check. And that is out of control. There has not been any oversight. The government has run amok without any checks and balances, and it is very, very dangerous. We must hold our government accountable.
Also, appropriations. The House, responsibility. People's House is responsible for the well-being of our nation. We have a Federal Reserve that has pumped $40 trillion into our economy, which is the reason why we have inflation. We can point to some other things, but the Feds have done that in order to save the stock market and the global elite. In addition to that, you have a U.S. Congress that has gone on a piracy of the Treasury, spending trillions of dollars on vaccines that do not work, on policies of lockdown which have been inordinately oppressive to the poor, and as well those of minority status. So when you speak to this particular thing, even though we have the notice today that Anthony Fauci will step down on the last day or somewhere in between of Joe Biden's term, probably because he doesn't want to be impeached. But
that's right.
I got to ask you in this regard, we watched all of this overspending. It is
Yeah.
responsible for our inflation at this particular point. What happens when you get the Congress representing the ninth Congressional District? What financial policies would you put in place?
We need to freeze our spending right now. We need to get it under control.
Yeah.
Conservatives used to be a word and a phrase where people really had a fiscal conservative attitude and responsibility. We have lost that. Both parties have lost that, and we must get back to holding ourselves accountable, and that means ratcheting back our spending and making some hard decisions. And on a very micro level, if you think about just your home budget, if you went from X amount of dollars and you lost your dollars or whatever, or you lost your job and you need to ratchet it back, there's going to be some hard decisions. It doesn't mean that when we cut the cable and cut this that it's bad or that we don't. It means that we can't afford it. That in order to continue, we need to make some wise decisions on what's going on. We're not doing that, and instead, what we're doing is we're spending frivolously, and that's what's happening even with Biden, the infrastructure plan, which is anything but.
Yep.
They just are spending money and getting it out. It's full of pork, and I am for investing in our infrastructure if we can help create jobs and if it's really investing in our infrastructure. But we also need to stop our spending. Like, we just have got to stop it. We are addicted to spending right now, and I am absolutely for that. And the reason why I think I have credibility in this is because I spent over 20 years raising my own funds to be a missionary with Campus Crusade for Christ. We did not receive any funding from the organization at all. So, for example, if we didn't have enough money come in, we got a short paycheck or zero paycheck, and that happens sometimes. The organization doesn't supplement that. And so my point with all that is you don't join an organization like that and last for over 20 years because of the money. Because trust me, you're not getting paid a lot. You're joining and doing that because of the mission. The mission is what drives you. It's your passion. And my mission right now is helping save America and protect an America for my girls to be able to grow up in and my future grandkids. And that's going to involve hard decisions that are fiscally responsible, because if we do not, we really are heading down the dangerous path that we may not be able to recover from. And it's just seriously the truth right now. And so we have got to wake up and make hard decisions.
Scotty Moore with us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to end with this particular question. We got to have you come back, and we got a lot of things to talk with you about in terms of winning the ninth Congressional District. But we mentioned Brazil, and Bolsonaro has a problem, and it's in regards to Venezuela's energy problem. When they had oil and natural gas and energy, they were the cream of the crop. They could pay. They had great wealth. When Chavez and Maduro destroyed the energy industry, an immigration problem was created at the northern border of Brazil. And also at the southern border of Central America. Those individuals are headed this way. I got to ask you, how important is energy to immigration, and what is your thought on immigration done at the border today?
Okay, so energy is vital for I've said it and I'll continue to say it, energy is vital for our economic security. We have got to produce energy, and it's from fossil fuels. I mean, look at what happened in Texas in February. There was the big freeze, and it was a disaster. The windmill generators and the solar, nothing could keep up. We have got to have fossil fuels going to keep America safe. It's a national security. We're going to get attacked. We need to make sure we produce that, and it's our constitutional freedoms. We need to be able to start, and this is essential, and people are fleeing their realities because of bad policy, and they're coming to the United States of America because of hope, because of prosperity, because of being able to have an opportunity, because of low taxes and an opportunity to start something. I really believe there are amazing entrepreneurs in Brazil and probably other parts of the world who have not had an opportunity to really get started because of the overburden of taxation, where it just did not even afford them a possibility. But we have Steve Jobs, amazing entrepreneurs like Elon Musk, who have done multiple but we have an environment for that. Now, as far as immigration goes, I have a wife who's immigrated here. I've lived overseas. I believe that we must have a strong border. I would continue supporting funding and completing the wall. Any nation that does not have secure borders is not a nation at all, because we are a porous border, and that is what's happening right now. And make no mistake, it's an agenda. They're doing it on purpose, and they're trying to bring it in. They're trying to attack Tennessee, Florida, Texas. They're going after conservative states. My friends need to wake up and understand there is an active agenda to destroy America, and it is a fight. There is not a peacetime right now. You're either losing ground or you're taking it back. And that's why, and listen, I believe that I want to live a life where I'm raising my family, living kind to my fellow man, working hard. But we are not in that point right now. We have got to fight, or else we risk losing America right now. And we're fighting for our kids and our future grandkids and future great-grandkids so that they can have peace. But right now, it is a fight. And we must, right here, the fight for America, or else we risk losing it.
Your wife has proven with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and Obama and Biden and Harris have mythologically stated there is a pathway to citizenship in our nation. It's not through illegal immigration. It is through orderly migration into our country. And we are not discriminating against people because of the color of their skin or the content of their character or their religion. We want people just to stand in line the right way. Listen, how can people support your campaign? How can people get you the dollars and cents? How are you on RenRed, or what exactly should people do?
They can go straight to my website right here, ScottyMooreForCongress.com. That's Scotty with a Y, Moore for Congress.com. You can click on the donate button right there. You can give any dollar amount possible. The more, the better. Listen, tell your friends. You can also go onto social media. Like, I got all my links on the website right there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Share, tell your friends, get the word out. We've got to get the right. Listen, I tell people not all candidates are alike. And so just because they say they're conservative, or just because they have a R and a Republican, we have got to get the right person elected and through this primary. 36 more days. I am all in. I'm staying up late. I'm waking up early. I'm going everywhere, knocking on doors. I'm making phone calls. I'm speaking at places, telling about who I am, what I believe, why I'm running. I need your help. I'm going to work with Mark Meadows and Conservative Partnership Institute, the Freedom Caucus, pushing America first responsibility. Right here, it says it straight up. That's what I believe. I believe in President Trump's policies. He was a great president who led well. I'm not going to do the mean tweets, but I support what he supported. He defended Israel. He was the most pro-life president. He stopped human trafficking in so many ways. He renegotiated the NAFTA and the USMCA, strong border, energy independence. I mean, peace in the Middle East, so many amazing things that, like you said, the liberal media doesn't give him credit for. That's what I support, and that's what we're going to bring back.
There you go. Scotty Moore, we thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. And I want to end with this quote from Donald Trump. You can't con people, at least not for long, the art of the deal. Joe Biden has conned America and stolen an election. The art of the deal is to make certain that Scotty Moore gets to Washington to help take back our country. Ladies and gentlemen, Scotty Moore, God bless you and your fam. We look forward to your return to our television network
yes,
and
sir.
the grace of God to represent us here in Washington, D.C. Congratulations.
Amen. God bless you and your audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Scotty Moore, ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you, you only get one shot. A lot of people don't like when I say this, but this election here is the one shot. If you put the wrong people in office this time, then the foundation necessary for even Trump or DeSantis, whoever runs out of the GOP in 2024, will be paper and straw. You need a firm foundation and good people. Scotty Moore is that firm foundation. We'll be back, ladies and gentlemen, with more of the best in urban conservative talk. Enjoy the funk. We got lots of